How do you get from point A to point B? I'm sure you'll choose whatever brings you there in the fastest and most economical way, am I correct? Ideally, we all want something fast, cheap, and safe. But sometimes, and actually most times, it's actually quite impossible to get these three together. After all, you can't have everything in the world, am I right? So what happens when your transportation is not safe? How do you know you're not in danger? Well, today we're going to be looking at 10 of the most dangerous types of transportation in the world. We'll go through some quirky picks unique in specific parts of the world, but we'll mostly look at some traditional types of transportation that you might not be aware of how dangerous or safe they can be. Check out what I have on number 1. You might not know how many people die every year when riding on this one. With all that said and done, let's begin, shall we? Number 10. Planes. There's something scary about airplanes, especially when they land or when there's turbulence in mid-flight. Doesn't it feel sometimes like the plane is about to fall with so many strong winds coming? We already went through some of the most dangerous airports in the world, and we saw that airplane accidents can be quite chaotic and traumatizing. In recent years, we even hear about planes disappearing or having dramatic crashes. And of course, don't forget about that one that was hit by a missile in Ukraine. I actually better stop, because you might start thinking that airplanes are in fact the most dangerous, when in reality they're actually much safer than other types of transportation. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that a plane is the least dangerous compared to other things on this list. The probability of you dying in a plane accident are very low. It is said that you're more likely to die in a car rather than on an airplane accident. I guess we're safer in planes, it's just scary to think of what would happen if there's a technical issue and we happen to be that small percentage of the population who have to go through such an event. Number 9. Trains and subways. And here's another one that you might think is very dangerous, but not as dangerous as it seems. Going on trains sometimes sounds dangerous because of their high speed. When we hear about train crashes, we see bridges falling apart, train tracks completely destroyed, and wrecked train wagons with dozens of people affected by it. If a train has a collision, it could even end in a tragedy such as an explosion and a deadly fate for its passengers. The truth is, there are actually quite a number of deaths that involve trains and subways, but most of the fatalities in railway and subways have to do with trespassers who stand on the tracks at their own risk. The accidents rarely involve or hurt actual passengers. Back in 2014, there were only 769 railroad deaths in the United States, but most of them had to do with people breaking rules and standing on the wrong place at the wrong time. You really don't hear that often about passengers dying on train incidents, so next time you go on a train, rest assured that you are riding on a safe type of transportation. Number 8. TUK-TUKS. Now let's have a look at one type of transportation that's not as common as most things on this list, but they are worth mentioning: the TUK-TUKS. TUK-TUKS are some of the most fun types of transportation in existence today. These colorful and compact vehicles are great for traveling across short distances in different parts of the world, especially Southeast Asia. They can fit anything from 1 to 3 people, but don't be surprised if you ever see one with 5 or more passengers. Anything is possible in one of these things. However, tuk-tuks happen to be quite dangerous once they go on big roads or when the weather is not that nice. They can easily be knocked down by strong winds, and they are very vulnerable to accidents, as other vehicles on the road are likely to be bigger and stronger than the small tuk-tuks. Number 7. City bicycles. I'm sorry if you were expecting something weird or exotic, but I have to continue this list with a very common and eco-friendly yet quite dangerous option: the bicycle. Now, you might be wondering just what could be so dangerous about them. After all, they're likely one of the most convenient options now that cities are so hard to navigate. A bicycle ride definitely feels like the ultimate adventure when you're a kid, and as grown-ups living in big cities, we enjoy how they save us from having to sit in traffic for a long time. However, bicycles are also one of the biggest causes of brain injuries in the world of sports and recreation, and quite a few hundred of people lose their lives every year in bicycle accidents. In America, there was an average of 800 bike-related deaths per year from 2006 to 2016. However, the number of cyclists just seems to increase. Now, let's also point out that a lot of fatalities related to bicycles have to do with people not wearing helmets. It seems indeed that bicycles are dangerous, but mostly when you're not wearing the proper gear. So make sure you are well protected before you go out on those busy roads. And if you are driving a car, please respect bicycles. You don't want to be the author of a deadly incident. Number 6. Chicken buses. Next on our list, I have another quirky type of transportation. This one is used a lot in Guatemala: the chicken buses. They're pretty much American school buses with an extreme and peculiar makeover. Jump in one of these and get ready to squeeze with lots of locals who are going to different parts of the country. Why go on a regular bus when you can ride a chicken bus? It's cheap and quite convenient. You might get a seat or you might have to stand. There's no capacity limit. And you have to listen to any cheesy song that the driver wants to listen to. It's a shared experience. Unfortunately, as fun as it sounds, riding chicken buses comes with a few risks. Sometimes passengers become victims to gang-related crime, and there are also terrible accidents that happen due to irresponsible drivers speeding up in dangerously steep roads. Chicken buses are indeed worth trying, just don't stay on them for too long. Number 5. Walking. Yeah, that's just kind of an interesting one right here. When nothing else seems to work, we have no other choice than using our own legs to get to wherever we want to go. But even though walking always seems like one of the safest and healthiest transportation options, it still comes with some risks. What can be so wrong with walking? You control your own speed and you don't share lanes with cars or other vehicles. Well, back in 2013, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in the USA reported a number of 4,735 pedestrians who died due to accidents in traffic. Another 150,000 ended up in the emergency room for the exact same reasons. Now, the most common factor in these incidents is alcohol. The substance is linked to about half of accidents that involve pedestrians, so it seems like no one is out of risk when it comes to transportation, even walkers. You better look both sides next time you cross the street because you don't know what the drivers out there might be up to. Number 4. Cocoa taxis. You thought tuk-tuks are fun. Try cocoa taxis. They're three-wheeled vehicles very similar to tuk-tuks, but they're in the shape of a coconut. You can find them all around Cuba, where they were introduced back in the 1990s. Although a cocoa taxi is a cool and original way to go around, many people would strongly advise you not to ride one. The UK government discourages visitors from using cocoa taxis as they've been part of many accidents that involve tourists. Canada, on the other hand, says that they're unsafe and should be avoided. Even the official cocoa taxi website describes their service as dangerous but adventurous. Despite the many warnings, I guess it's worth riding one. I mean, let's be honest, we gotta try everything at least once. I don't think I'd miss a chance to ride one when I'm in Cuba next time. It's all for the sake of adventure after all. Number 3. Boats and ferries. Most people these days use airplanes to go across long distances. We're lucky to live in a time in which you can travel across continents in just a matter of hours. However, boats and ferries are still widely used and serve well to bring people and large objects across the ocean. But unpredictable weather conditions and irresponsible management also make them vulnerable to some of the worst disasters ever. Just in this century, we've had more than 50 major maritime disasters in different parts of the world, and it's only been 20 years. One of the most tragic was Lijula in Senegal, when this overloaded ferry capsized in the middle of the ocean and resulted in a death toll of 1,864 people. Marine travel is relatively safe, but you definitely want to make sure you're riding with a responsible and knowledgeable crew. Now it's time for the day's best pick. Today I have the picture of this truck suspended in mid-air by some heavy, strong claws. I'm not sure why anyone would like to ride any of these things, and why would they move the truck like this in the first place. If this does exist, I'm sure it'd be quite dangerous. Not only for the people inside, but mostly for whoever is down, vulnerable to get crushed by the weight of this truck and its load. Perhaps there's no way to transport trucks in that way, but that still doesn't erase the fact that trucks are actually at the top of the list for dangerous types of transportation. Well, except for our actual number 1, but either way, let's have a look. Number 2. Cars and trucks. That's right, the transportation we're most familiar with. This is the one that also causes a lot of deaths on a yearly basis. With so many people on the road, it only makes sense that accidents are likely to happen at any moment. Most accidents are caused by terrible and irresponsible driving practices such as alcohol consumption, texting, and driving above the speed limits, and sometimes all three at once. These apply to both car and truck drivers, as their bad practices can put in danger the lives of anyone around them. For that reason, just follow the common advice. Don't drink and drive, don't text and drive, and try to stay below the speed limit, even if it's tempting to break some rules.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it, it really works.
Number 1. Motorcycles. While motorbikes are pretty much in the same category as cars in terms of both being motor vehicles, motorcycles still get their own spot due to the number of deaths they cause per year. It goes above any other type of transportation, even the quirky and sketchy ones in small developing countries. If you look at the numbers of deaths in different types of transportation, nothing comes close to the motorbikes. They're 20 times more common than cars and hundreds of times more likely to have an accident than a bus or even a plane. What is it about motorcycles that is just so dangerous? Some people say it's the reckless speeds and general irresponsible driving, and just like bicycles, a lot of motorcycle accidents would not have ended in tragedy if the riders were wearing proper gear, such as, well, a helmet. So if you do plan to get on a motorbike anytime soon, make sure you properly prepare for your ride. You don't want to be one of those people who we lose every year. Have you ever been in a motorcycle, or maybe you own one? What is the kind of transportation that you would avoid at all costs? Let us know in the comments section down below. With all that said and done, that's our video for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all next time. Later, everybody.